First Communion. To make this rosary, you will need thin and thick round nose pliers, chain nose pliers, cutters, spacers. We're using letter beads because we'll be putting his name into the rosary, a cross, 20 gauge wire, and then 59 beads. 8 of ours are going to be the name. Please note the spacers that we are using, shown here, have little loops on the end, and we need to cut off these loops every single time we require the spacer and tuck the excess wire inside. If you're successful in finding spacers without loops, such as this one, please get those instead. Here is a focus on the cross that we will be using for the rosary. We've already started a decade of the rosary, but we'll get into how to do that in a moment. We finished a decade of the rosary and are putting in our spacer right now. So what you want to do is make a loop using the thick round nose pliers.
Thick and thin.
Use the thin ones to close off the loop. And it's time to put in a spacer, so if you were to be just starting, you'd be doing the exact same thing. So you take your spacer,
And we have this.
and we have ones where you have to cut it yourself and make its own loop.
Cut a little bit more.
Once you've opened up your spacer enough, you can just put that onto your wire, onto the loop, and make another loop. So bend your wire, cut off a small enough portion of that so that you can get a large enough loop. Use your thick round nose pliers to finish off the loop. Make sure to tuck it in properly. And then once you have a secure loop, you start making another one. Make your second loop by bending the wire a little bit. Make a loop. Don't fully close it, but attach it to the spacer. Now you can close the loop. Make sure you entirely close it. Sometimes the chain nose pliers are required to do that. And then put on your next bead and continue the process. So you want to bend the wire 90 degrees, cut off about 1 centimeter or less, and then make a loop using the thick pliers. And make sure that the loop is closed off. Make another loop about 1 centimeter from the edge, fold over, make it into a circle. Don't close it, but attach it. Sometimes it's necessary to open up the loop a little bit more to make it easier to attach. Attach it to the bead and close it off. We're going to repeat this again. So you're going to put your neck spacer on now.
But we have this not necessary thing here.
So we're just cutting off the tip of the spacer on the edge.
Tack in.
Tuck in the piece that you just cut off. Slide it onto the wire. Fold the wire over 90 degrees. Cut it about 1 centimeter in. Use the thick pliers, make a loop, and close the loop off. Begin by cutting off some wire, as well as an Our Father bead. Matter how much you cut off, just between we'll be making this portion of the rosary right here. Necessary to be exact. So fold 90 degrees, about 1 centimeter away from the edge. Make a loop using the thick pliers.
Straighten.
And attach it. to the main medallion, which has 3 rings on it. And now make sure that you close off this loop and secure it. And maybe flatten it too. Now we're going to put our spacer on, which already has the edge cut off of it. Bend the wire 90 degrees.
One this way, one that way.
Cut off the wire and make a loop and close it off. So now we're going to make another loop. So taking that long piece of wire, bend it 90 degrees, make a slightly open loop. Now add the bead, attach to the spacer onto the wire, bend it 90 degrees, and close this loop. Cut off the excess wire, and close the loop completely. Now you're going to again bend the main piece of wire 90 degrees and make a loop which is not completely closed. Attach to the bead and close the loop completely. Put the spacer with an already cut off edge onto the wire, bend 90 degrees, and cut off the excess wire. Close off the loop completely. Now take that first initial piece of wire, bend 90 degrees about 1 centimeter away from the edge. Create a loop but don't close it completely. And attach to the spacer. Close off the loop. It is necessary sometimes to use the flat nose pliers to just flatten everything and make sure it's closed tightly. Now we're at the rosary where we have to put in 3 beads, so put on 1. You're just going to continue the process for the rest of the beads, adding in what you need. Now we're going to complete the bottom part. This is one of the final loops. You're going to take your piece of wire, bend again 90 degrees, make a loop, don't close it completely, attach it to the loop of the final bead, and close it off. Also, it's good to flatten it. We're going to take a spacer and take the edge off. Tuck the loose edge in. except for the third decade. On this end, we left just one loop, and we have the wire attached to that. And here we have our letter beads. The letter beads that we have quite a big hole going through the middle, and we thought the 3mm beads would be fine to use as stoppers, but the 3mm beads go right through. So instead, we're going to use 4mm beads as stoppers, and the 3mm bead on the inside for each letter. We're going to begin by putting on a 4mm bead. We're using one that is silver in color. A 3mm bead, which goes on the inside, getting that all to the bottom, and using another 4mm bead as a stopper. So now we have 2 stoppers on the end. We're gonna fold 90 degrees, cut, and then make a loop, like so. So now, again, we are going to take our long piece of wire, fold, make a loop, don't close it completely, attach it to the first loop, close off the loop, and then now we're going to take a 4mm bead, a letter bead, the 3mm bead for the inside that goes inside of the letter bead, and once again a 4mm bead. We're going to fold that 90 degrees, cut about 1 centimeter away, and fold that over. Make sure to close that loop that you just made. That's how it looks, and we're going to continue the process. We would like to mention that the name we are using, Benjamin, has 8 letters, so it is symmetrical and we don't need to worry about adding extra beads or taking away extra beads. So we're just going to continue the process for the rest of the decade. After getting up to the A bead, so halfway down at the decade, we realized that with these circle beads, the length of this total bead was pretty big, and we found these middle beads which have almost a flower-like shape, so we've decided to use these beads instead. And you can customize the design however you like. Now the entire rosary is complete, and it's time to straighten it up. And the best tip to do so is to just lift it in the air and let it straighten itself. And once it is straightened, take the loop on one end, open it up, attach it, and close that final loop. Here is the completed First Communion Rosary. Thanks for watching!